Ian. It's my kitchen table where I do all my modelling. So we're back again for another review, and if you look over my shoulder you can see the subject in itself. It's Trumpeter's 1/35th scale M1132 Stryker ESV, so that's Engineer Squad Vehicle. This is not a brand new kit by any stretch of the imagination, and I don't know if there's many reviews of this on the internet. However, it's a really interesting vehicle, and as you probably know, I've got a theme going where I like operational vehicles that have engineering type attachments on them, so I thought it was worth a look at. I've not looked inside the box, something that's been sitting in my stash for ages and ages, but something different than most of the other stuff I've been doing reviews on, so I thought it'd be worth a look. So let's get the box on the table, stop my waffle. So here we are, down on the bench. First off, as always, if I can just tilt it a little bit, we can get rid of the glare from the lighting. Box art, absolutely fantastic in situ box art from Trumpeter. Now some of the Trumpeter kit box arts are brilliant, and this is definitely one of them. Done by possibly Vincent Wu in 2010 maybe, but beautiful action shot, and you've got the surface mine roller and then surface mine plow, or the surface mine plow or surface obstacle plow variant in the other side with an M1 Abrams in the rear. So kit number, Trumpeter kit number, what is the kit number for this? Looking at the box trying to find the kit number. Can't find the kit number. Well, there we go. Anyway, 1/35th scale M1132 Stryker ESV, so Engineer Squad Vehicle with, we've got a mine roller and a plough blade. Side of the box we've got the usual blurb. Pause the video if you want to have a quick read. 14 years and above, so not for children. So you've got the SOB, which, does it tell you what it is? No, it does not tell you. And then you've got the mine roller, photo etch parts and MRE ration packs to fold up to make up. Alright, here we go, kit number, so 01574, and then we have got on the other side overall olive drab or NATO green paint schemes, and then the end box. So let's open up and see what we've got inside. So we've got instructions and a box full of plastic, and this is Trumpeter's usual grey styrene. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh, lot 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 sprues. You've got 6 rubber tyres and 2 sprues of clear glass, a single sprue here, an upper hull and a lower hull. Wow, box full of stuff. So let's have a look at the instructions first. Oh, painting guide. Well, that's going to be quick and easy, isn't it? Painting guide, NATO green, and then detailed painting, desert sand for the fuel or water carriers, and then obviously reds and oranges or ambers for the marker lights and indicators. Now if I tilt this camera down a little bit, maybe even zoom in a tiny bit, can we? Okay, let's ditch that. Doesn't, again, as with a lot of Chinese companies, it doesn't actually tell you what the unit market or the unit designator for this vehicle is. It is just a generic vehicle, so do a bit of research, check your sources, and you'll be able to find out if you want to put individual unit markings on these vehicles. So opening up page 1, you've got the sprue layout, and moving on to part 1, we're on the lower hull assembly. So this is the drive line they want you to start construction on straight away. So you've got the drive line parts here. We've got the front lower glacis plate with all the parts on it, and then the driveline components assembling onto the lower hull with possibly some shock mounts on either side, bit of front armour plate and a recovery eye. Moving on to step 3, we've got the drive linkages for the front 2 pairs of road wheels, possibly some attachment parts for either a mine plough or the surface plough or the mine roller. Moving on to the starting of the suspension struts. We've got part 5 is the wishbones for the bottom of the suspension struts. Moving on to rear stowage bins, and I think this will be something to do with the rear axles, I believe. Not very well labelled, I'd say, these instructions, but well clearly laid out. Yeah, so rear axle parts going on, and you've got options between B83 and 79 or A18, B80 or 82, or you've got options to do PE parts and bend them. Now I've built a Stryker, a couple of Strykers before now, so it's actually easier just to take the time to bend the PE and ditch the plastic parts. It's far more detail than PE, so it's definitely worth going for the photo etch there. Part 7, putting the wheels together, tyres on, glue up, way to go. Now what I do when I've built these before is I've built the wheels up, let them dry, tyres on, and then I've glued the wheels onto the axles to get the wheel alignment spot on so that all 8 wheels are flat on the ground. And if you want the front 2 pair of axles turning, you can set that up, and once all that's cured, you then take the rubber off, because it comes on and off quite easily, and then that gives you the opportunity then to paint it and detail it all up before you put the rubber on for final weathering. Part 8 is the rear of the hull, the rear access hatch, fuel carriers or water carriers, whatever they are. Quite self-explanatory, and as I said, easy to follow, if not labelled very well, so you have an idea of what you're actually building. So the rear hatch goes in the lower hull, and then we move on to the upper hull. So we've got a front armour going over where the engine will be. You've got the louver covers and PE grills for the cooling system. You've got side hatches, that is a winch drum. Further on, you're building on more of these parts, radio antenna bases, Pioneer tool mounts, more parts for the winch, fair leads and such like, an opposite armour panel on either side. And then part 12, you're gluing on the rear hatches, wire cutters, front wire cutters, and a few more bits and pieces. This is where all the detail starts getting loaded onto the kit, which is brilliant, and they are very detailed models. The Trumpeter Stryker family are brilliant models to model for a modern AFE kit. Lights, light extension stanchions for getting them clear of where the mine gear would be. You've got options between using the stanchions, or you can use the original hull mounted parts. Depending on which attachment you want to put on will depend on which one you use. I think with this one, most of them will be, if you look at part 16, most of it will be looking for the extended lights to give you clearance over what engineering attachments on the front. Side stowage racks, quite sure what that is, possibly some louver grill for an air intake maybe. Front fair leads for the winch rope, and some form of antenna on the back. So that will be most of the detail work done. Then we're moving on to the commander's hatch and cupola with the gun mount, and then we've got a stowage bin for munitions, the other side stowage rack going on. This will be winch assembly possibly, capstan assembly, yeah, so that's going together, and then that will be going on the tank vehicle at some point. Driver's hatch, and then we've got the option here of the windscreen for the drivers. It'll likely be an armoured windscreen for the driver when he needs to be heads up, and the hatch will close down over it. which is another interesting part of this kit. This piece here will be the recovery brace if you were doing a tow, and then yeah, capstan winch going onto the upper hull, driver's hatch going in. We've got a rear bustle assembly. We've got an optional cover for the radiator grille, which is fine. I would probably use that because it's more detail and it looks good. I've built it before, as I said. These are the lane safe markers, or markers for the safe lanes. Once it's been ploughed, they go on the rear of the vehicle, which you'll find in 28. So 26 and 27 is those being built. I would say take care with these because you don't want to overload them with glue or anything like that, but they will be really detailed when they're done. So they can either go in the stowed or extended position. We've got a cover going over the winch, light guards going on, and then we're moving on to the weapon station assembly, which looks nicely detailed. And then that's part 29. After that, part 30 is that weapon station going on, and the rear view mirrors. And then we move on to options. So you can go for the SOB assembly or mine roller. Choices. So from after part 30 we go back to 1. So you've got 1, 2, which is for the surface plough. I must find out what SOB stands for. I should have thought I'd done the research before we did this, but never mind. So in 2 parts, so 3 parts, you've got that attached into the front lower hull, and then you go back to 1 again, and this is the mine assembly we're putting together, which is done over possibly 4 parts maybe. It looks to be a little more detailed in construction. Yeah, so you've got 4 different parts for that. Lots of small pieces here, and they're all molded in styrene by the looks of it. So this is not going to be for a beginner, it's going to be for an intermediate or an advanced modeler. Time's going to be taken, cleanup's going to be imperative to make sure everything fits right, and I would seriously consider using certainly Tamiya extra thin, but possibly even the quick set to avoid over melting these parts because they are so tiny. But it should, with care, go together well. And it's saying do not cement, so you have rotary wheels. It probably won't matter whether the wheels rotate or not, but care, you should get them running free. So step 3 of the mine roller assembly, then you've built the individual mine roller wheels. They go onto the gang pads, and then you've got 2 gangs either side. And then these poles here will be electronic counter warfare equipment for detonating any electronically triggered mines, I would imagine. Not being an expert in the field, but I'd imagine that's probably what they are. We've got some dust covers and width marker poles on them for the driver, so you can see how wide his vehicle is. And then that then goes on the side, and if you look here, WH6 either side, so that actually pins with plastic pins to the side. Great care would need to be taken, I would say. Probably if it was me, I'll be gluing it up so it stays solid. And then you've got the option for rolling up strap-in for stowage. Now, there are a lot of companies that do resin stowage kits for this particular kit. So once you've built the basic model, fill your boots, you can get loads and loads of detail sets for it, and it'll be excellent. Wow, that's an involved instructions. Let's have a look at the actual parts, shall we? Grab my scissors so we can cut some of these out. Starting with the lower hull. Again, really nice solid plastic, very reminiscent of Hasegawa, that top level plastic. The molded detail is beautiful, raised bolt heads throughout, very crisp, minimal flash. I don't know how old these molds are when the kit was particularly molded in them, but it's a generic hull for the Stryker family, so that part of the mold will get quite a bit of use because they've got about 4 or 5 different Strykers. So it may be a little bit of age on that. Once they've molded the bottom, then they mold separate tops for them. And it is beautiful. You can see that in the camera. If I do that, you can see all the relief and the bolt detail on the side paneling. Crisp, beautifully molded. Hinges. Even got the round, you see that there, you've got the round weld seams here on the front where your light guards go in, to give you that extra level of detail when you're gluing on the round wire light guards. Yeah, really, really nice. Tyres, I'm not going to bother taking them out. They've got a standard mud terrain pattern. They're malleable, they're crisp, and with a rub with a sand and stick you can get them looking really, really reasonable, and they do take weathering well from whether it's oils or pigments or whatever you want to use. Clear parts are very clear, not a problem. I'm going to leave them in the bags because I don't want them to be scratched. You've got the driver's cover, and then you've got light lenses, indicator lenses. Yeah, they're really lovely. Okay, this small sprue here is the framing for the driver's glass or vision port, even with a windscreen wiper. Really nice. Right, I'm going to try and sort out the kit parts for the Stryker from the kit parts for the mine plow. I don't know if I can just do that 100%, but let's have a look. Right, so here we have strapping, and then we've got the MRE ration packs to cut out and glue. It's quite thin, flimsy paper, so it's probably going to be a pain in the rear end to do. However, with a bit of patience and time, it'll be all right. Or you could go down the route of buying an aftermarket set, which make life a lot easier. You've got people like Black Dog or any other sort of resin companies, Legend, that'll do sets for the Strykers. Right, the PE parts, beautiful, beautiful etched grills, bolt relief, good clear fold lines. Not just too many parts, 20 parts in total, so it's not going to be a huge problem. I would say though, get yourself a decent set of bending pliers or a small bender just to get those folds done nice and square and crisply. Okay, decals, we've got markings here, just probably generic markings. There's no specific unit markings, but you've got everything from the hazard warning markers for the ammunition boxes and such like, so it seems to be reasonably complete, and we'll detail the model up beautifully. Again, I'm not going to take them out of the package because I don't want them to be damaged or lost. Right, so we've got the first one we're starting off with on sprue wise is a double packet, so I'll take one out, and this is the wheels, which is I suppose a fair enough place to start. So it comes in 2 sprues in that packet. So if we start looking at the wheel detail, really crisp, really nice. It's flash free. There's a little bit of burring. If you look here at the, get a point there, you can see, look here at the suspension struts. You can see there's some burring down the mold seam. It's not going to be a problem for clearing that. Swipe with a scalpel blade or a scraper and a polish with a sanding stick. It'll be gone in an instant. But yeah, really crisp, really nice. When you look at the locating part here at the rear of the wheel, that's going to go on no problem at all. And like I said, I've built this kit before, so I know if it goes together really well. So take the time to stick that back in the bag. Right, next sprue. Maybe we'll go for the big one. Get that on the bottom of the box. So this has got the rear of the vehicle on it, plus a turret hatch. Now you can see there's an awful lot of over trees to cut off, just to make sure that the whole mould was filled properly. So you get a little bit of cleanup, nothing excessive. If you look here, we've got the casting for the Capstone Winch, beautiful heatsink details. All these parts are really finely moulded. The connection points aren't just too huge. There are no ejector pins that are going to be visible on the reverse. So for example, if you did want to do an open tailgate, you can. It's not going to be a problem. Burring's not a huge problem on this sprue. Flash a little bit. See, there's a little bit of flash there on one of the side panels. Nothing that can't be cleaned off with a scalpel blade. So if I just do an overall of that sprue, yeah, quite a lot of parts on that. So this is quite, it's definitely going to be an advanced, intermediate to an advanced build. If you want to build something like this, I suggest you cut your teeth on a few Tamiya or Academy kits before you start diving for one of these, because you really will need your skill level to build this. And I have in the past bought off eBay part built kits of these that have been abandoned by other modelers purely because of the technicality that goes into building them. But they're easy enough once you've got a bit of practice. So this is Sprue C. We've got the rear stowage, again, well, side stowage carriers for the hull. Really, really nice. There's the cover for the Capstone Winch. We've got some armour panels and some other detail parts. Yeah, really, really fine. I would suggest making sure that you have a really good pair of side cutters if you're going to build this, for removing the parts from the sprue cleanly without any damage or breakages. Right, next one, we've got a double sprue. Now that's, we'll do that later. This is a double sprue in here. So this one here, we've got rear hull stowage. We've got some nice louvered detail for intakes and radiator cooling. Front hull piece, and these look to be the rear of the side stowage bins. Beautifully molded, so that's sprue E, and then we move on to sprue D. So we've got crew hatches, more crew hatches, commander coupler, and the weapon system mount here as well. Again, beautifully molded, not going to be a problem. A little bit flashy, but nothing that you can't clean up. It's not as if you're building a 1970s Airfix kit here. This is a mid-2000s Chinese kit, which will be in good order. Right, this sprue I'm going to leave in the bag because I think you can see it reasonably well through the plastic. It's a double sprue, and this is the safe lane markers that drop these little safe lane or lane marking sticks out the rear as it goes and clears any minefields. So they build up and then they deploy from the rear of the vehicle. And you've also got the sides here of a stowage bin, I think goes on the top of the vehicle. Again, beautifully molded, flash free, very much so, burring minimal, clean up minimal, but some exceedingly small parts. So you really are going to need to have a good set of sprue cutters to remove those parts safely from the sprue. Right, I'll take this one out because this is part of the main overall vehicle. So we've got sprue Q with the 50 cal machine gun for the weapon system. Again, a little bit flashy, but nothing that can't be sorted out. Beautiful molding though, stunning detail. You know, you've got your sprungs, your bolts. You've got either an option between an ordinary 50 cal, which is really nicely molded, or you've got 50 cal grenade launcher. Choice is yours. Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. Just clean up. You're going to have a bit of clean up here. There's a little bit of flash on some of these parts, if you can see that there, which may foul the fit. So you need to make sure that you pay attention and clear those parts up to get a good fit. Right, this is sprue WP. A little bit of protection on there for the very fine part here, which is absolutely nice to see. Again, beautifully molded, and a little bit of cleanup, but nothing that you can't get that in focus, nothing you can't manage. But really nicely molded parts, absolutely spot on. What we've known, or what I've come to know from Trumpeter. I have no problem building these kits. And I actually relish building these kits because they usually go together well. You just have to take your time and clear the parts up nicely as you go along, and make sure, do your test fitting to make sure everything goes together properly. And when you know it does go together, commit to glue and you won't have a problem. Right, we are nearly through it all. So we've got this sprue here, which is sprue WJ. And this, I think we're looking into moving into parts for the front attachment, engineering attachments. So there's no rhyme or reason as to which is what, but all the parts are clearly molded. There's a little bit of burring, I don't know if you can see that there, a little bit of burring on the edge, but nothing that can't clean up. Fine attachment points, fine molding, minimal ejector pins, not a problem. Not a problem at all. Right, now we've got one set of double sprues large, and then three sets of small sprues. So I think that last sprue possibly was to do with the mine roller, so we'll open this one first. Now this is a set of 3, and these are the surface mine roller wheels, and again, lovely, really nice moulding. There is a little bit of ejector pin and flashes, but the chances are, well, that's the attachment points for the mine roller stations, so it's not going to be a problem. Just make sure you clean up any excess ejector pins so it's a flat fit. The wheels are beautifully moulded, a little bit of flash, but you can clean that off. It may be that you want to distress the wheels a little bit, because they will get chipped and burred as they run. They're just rubber wheels, heavy rubber wheels that are designed to detonate. Probably anti-personnel mines and light armoured vehicle mines. They wouldn't probably necessarily detonate an anti-tank mine, but I don't know. I'm not an expert and don't claim to be, but if you look here, look at the size of these parts. That they really are exquisitely moulded. They're very fine. The burn's quite minimal on this particular sprue. Yeah, I'm quite impressed with that. Yeah, 3 in a pack, and that will get you all the wheel stanchions for the front mine roller. And then finally we've got a double pack here. So this is sprue WG and sprue WI. So WG, we've got some of the armor panels for the vehicle itself. We've got what looks to be the arms for the safe lane markers that attach to the vehicle. So we've got those points there. We've got the straight bar recovery unit. That's an optional piece for the front. We've got some just small, called greeblies, but yeah, small detail items, all really nicely molded. Actually quite minimal flash and minimal burring. If we look down the side of the solid molded bar there isn't much burn on there, so that's a really nice sprue. And then finally we've got sprue WI, which is the mine plow itself. So if we look at the business end of the blade, where you've got your hardened steel blade parts that do the main work when they're traveling through the top surface of the ground, beautifully molded, beautifully recessed bolt detail. You've got welding detail along the seams here for the rear part of it. Lots of detail in there. Loads and loads and loads of small parts. You can see them there. Loads of small parts. All nicely molded. Lots and lots of detail. Well, there we go. So that is a jam-packed kit full of plastic that, yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to put together. So now I'll get the kit back in a box. We'll get the camera back up on me, and we can maybe have some final thoughts and summary. So there we go. Trumpeter's M1132 Stryker with engineer squad vehicle with either a surface mine plow or a surface mine roller. So, thoughts on the kit. It's definitely not a kit for a beginner. Probably for an intermediate that's had a bit of experience under the belt, and shouldn't be a problem for an advanced modeler. But certainly it's going to be a model that's going to take time to build, and build to a level that's going to be kind of fitting of the subject. It's a really interesting subject, and it gives you huge opportunities for dioramas, whether you're having it, plowing stuff out of the way or getting rid of a minefield. It really does give you a lot of options for modelling. Trumpeter do a whole family of Stryker vehicles. They do the other variant with the larger surface mine plow. They do the ambulance version, they do the reconnaissance version, command vehicle, they do the biological warfare, nuclear, biological, chemical warfare vehicle. So there's a whole hush of Strykers in the Trumpeter catalogue, and they're all quite reasonably priced. You're looking around the £35, possibly £45 mark, depending on where you buy it from. And they're all readily available. And you can get loads and loads and loads of optional extras for these vehicles. There's loads of different companies that do detail sets for it, from stowage to photo etch to, you know, whatever you want you can get for it, even down to getting replacement wheels and tyres, which is actually a reasonable option, because the one drawback for this kit is that the rubber wheels don't have weight on wheels, and these vehicles do have a bit of weight. There is a bit of bulge on the bottom of the tyres, so if you wanted to replace the rubber wheels with resin items, that would be a good upgrade, but it's going to add to the price. So if you're working to a budget, you can just build it how it is, and they do build up to be brilliant vehicles. As I said, I've built a number of these vehicles, thoroughly enjoyed the build, and the level of detail at the end is worth the effort put in. Yeah, value for money, I would say yes. Buildability, yes, but with a bit of practice under your belt. Overall level of detail, good. Level of moulding, reasonable. Some sprues are obviously a bit more worn than others, because some of them will be common for the Stryker family and some of them will be specific to this vehicle. So yeah, some you'll need to pay attention. So you need to clean up where the cleanup's needed, and then obviously some of them will not be too bad. But there's lots and lots of small parts for this kit, so you're just going to have to take your time. Make sure you've got good sprue cutters, a good sharp knife, a good set of sanding stuff, and you won't have a problem. And definitely using Tamiya extra thin or quick setting for glues for this type of kit, so you don't obliterate the detail with the sort of more traditional heavier glues. But definitely worth a punt, definitely worth investing the time into, because you will end up with a brilliant display model that will draw a lot of attention. So yeah, definitely one for the stash. As I say, I've got one, and I've got a part built one I bought cheap off eBay that I need to repair and finish, and I've got others as well, purely because you can pick them up cheap on sale here, there and everywhere, and they're just great kits to have for a rainy day when you don't know what to build. So any comments or suggestions on the back of this video, you know, drop a line, let me know. If you've got any other information that I've missed out, don't be frightened to put it down below. We're all learning here, and I have no problem with anyone letting me know where I've made an error. If you like what you see and you'd feel obliged to, please feel free to hit the like and subscribe buttons, always appreciated. And if you do subscribe, mind and hit the bell notification so you'll get a notification of when I upload another video. So until next time guys, happy modelling and take care.